Hello, this is Henry Halliday with podcast number 4. In this episode, I would like to cover a quick technology look and then relate my own home technology view as I have implemented it. For technology review, let's take a look at some fields. First, in the financial area, one of the things that I have not discussed before because of its complexity and the question of whether it would really work in the real world is the blockchain. Blockchain, which uses the security approach of the internet architecture itself, has a built-in part of the architecture for each link, such that a link between the sender and receiver must be paired uniquely as a trusted pair. Each message then is disassembled and reassembled algorithmically across the network multiple paths, such that only the unique sender-receiver pairing key can be used to reassemble it at the destination. Messages are fragmented in this architecture across the network and can only be reassembled at each unique receiver. Thanks to the assessing of complexity of security, there is no easy way to have this compromised. But the solution of having every bank, for instance, paired individually with each customer does present some implementation challenges. Automatic encryption is part of the communication because it gets disassembled at the source and reassembled only at the unique sender-receiver pairing. This is part of what's called Bitcoin, which uses this kind of architecture. The problem with Bitcoin is that the establishment of a coin's value is not dependent on any physical backup like gold or silver or something unique, but floats depending on the demand. So that means it is not stable in terms of a day-to-day value, but floats. And it's a question of how trusting can you have this kind of architecture with no physical backup like the dollar has. For manufacturing, we've seen an increase of robot/cobot implementation, particularly in packaging, sorting, and other repetitive tasks that are not very challenging to people once they're doing it and may become boring, and as such then can become a safety hazard if you aren't on the continual lookout for issues. The system reliability for using data across the network is now becoming an increasing usage, particularly in packaging, sorting, and repetitive tasks. The system reliability can be improved by using maintenance and usage through an integrated sensor data fused in the cloud. This depends on getting all the data into the right format and function at the source and then processed in the cloud where the computational power is unending. First sign that robotics is not a perfect solution has been shown by the Boeing company, which implemented riveting of the outer skin to the frame by use of 2 robots, one inside the fuselage and the other outside. But what has happened is that the cost of rework, if it isn't done perfectly, has become so expensive that to utilize robotics in this case is going to be abandoned and going back to the process where 2 individuals handled one on the inside and one on the outside to make sure the rivets are located and secured properly in place. Interesting result. For transportation, there's been an increase in the 2019-2020 automobile implementation of safety systems and sensors for collision avoidance, lane maintenance, pedestrian detection, using external camera views and/or some new sonic and infrared detection sensors and integrated with the car system status. Heads-up display is making a reappearance, which is very useful because you're able to status what your vehicle is doing just by watching a display on the windshield. Technology has made a significant advance in how this is done and removed some of the constraints that the old mechanical system used to have. And for remote air surveillance, there's been a rapid expansion into all areas from military combat to search and rescue and other areas where surveillance is a significant help to aiding medical and physical help. For the medical field, 3D printing continues to evolve with the introduction of cell-like structures, including arterial features, to allow temporary grafts that are shed after healing starts. For security, this continues as a battle as connectivity widens, speeds continue to increase, and more diverse devices are connected. And we'll see whether the rapid data transfer in the new 5G system is going to be a reality or whether it'll just be too expensive. The reason for the expense is that because 5G does not penetrate buildings, it is necessary to increase the number of sensors that are fielded, not only on buildings, but within buildings. And with respect to the city allocates a flat fee for each site, but if there are more complex sites or the number increases, then there may be an issue on whether cities can afford total communications or not, since there's no government dictated value other than recommended value by the FAA or the Federal Trade Communication System to allocate funds to do this that cities must be able to afford. With that, I'd like to talk a little bit about my home experiences with technology as I've tried to implement them. I've always had a vision of trying to use technology to implement a smart home, not necessarily by knowing what's in the refrigerator, but knowing what's happening and be able to communicate this not only when I'm home, but when I'm on the road or driving in my car to alert me of what is happening. Because my home was built in the 60s, I've had to add networking extensions to provide wireless connection everywhere in my home after I initially started to distribute signals from cameras and the like by hardwires. I've upgraded my router and added wireless extensions to 1 gigabit backplane to interconnect all my Cat6 cables. Originally, some were the older version and had to change those out to support high data rates between devices and the PCs that I use for monitoring my camera systems. To reduce my footprint, I've converted all of my appliances inside, which were originally electric, to gas, but added communications so that I know what's happening from an energy standpoint. And to reduce the further demand for local power, I've added solar panels and updated my house circuit panel to current standards, and also to change all of my lighting to LEDs. All of this to try to be more conservative of what's happening in the environment with respect to my home's use, and also to keep up with technology to be able to control and monitor what's happening. From a security standpoint, my door locks are part of wireless networking and use a Vera X communication to monitor sensors and some Wi-Fi cameras. I've implemented a smart garage interface that has digital locks and a wireless garage door control for knowing the status of when I open and close the garage, and can close it even if I'm not in proximity of the garage door. The video cameras has been the biggest implementation that I have for monitoring security and also keeping track of pets and what's happening in my yard and home. This works well when I'm there to keep track of where my pets are, and also when I have people coming to the door or elsewhere, but has been a key feature of my mobile security, where I can make a decision whether it's someone that I don't want to be there and call the police of my own record as opposed to paying someone to call. This is helped by using cameras and systems that have a motion alert track for each camera so that I can either use it or not. And also have added a Ring floodlight and doorbell together with Nest home away monitoring activation, which means I can set it up so that it sends me notices when I'm not at home or not, by keeping track of where I am using the GPS location function within the phone system itself. For lighting, I've implemented outdoor sensor control with 7 zone timers, disc on and 8-hour turn-off function around my home to give me not only a visual pleasing effect, but also from a security standpoint, the property is now not dark, but rather illuminated, and I've included some pictures to show that. For bathroom lighting, I've implemented motion detection in the wall switches so that if someone either enters or leaves the bathroom, the lighting is appropriately adjusted. For aesthetic features, I've implemented some bathroom and other room decorations which use remote Wi-Fi to control their on-off so that it's automatically done at night for a period of time and then turned off so that they don't stay on all the time. Home lighting by room is also affected by remote Wi-Fi and also Z-Wave to be able to use low rate functions for turn off values, but also Wi-Fi to monitor what's happening in various portions of the home. And that's helped also by using Alexa, which has its own built-in video system, to be able to monitor what's taking place and also to serve as alarms for activities that I feel I need to know about. Another feature of wireless or wired network connection and control of lighting is I have a crawl space underneath, which has, because of the significant amount of rain we have and it's not a finished basement, I have a sump pump. I have a remote light to be able to check the status of that pump and also to be able to control the pump action if it's not correct. For home automation, part of my system is a recent installation of a heating and cooling system that has an automatic timer control with a remote app to be able to set the conditions where I want to turn heat or cooling on or off based on the time of day and whether I'm there or not. And that's very useful, especially when I want to verify that it's functioning correctly, since I'll get alarms if it's not. Part of the home automation is discrete sensor monitoring. Nest carbon monoxide and smoke sensors continually communicate and let me know their status of whether everything's functioning in each, and I have 4 different sensors doing this in different rooms, and they keep track of whether everything's online because they're communicating at a very low rate back to the Nest company and also to myself in an application. Temperature monitoring has been important in a room which doesn't have much heat but a wall heater, and I need to monitor the temperature to make sure that I'm not turning on excessively. This is also true of a hot tub, where I monitor the water temperature and the environment in the enclosure where the hot tub is. And it alerts me if it gets out of bounds in terms of those temperature limits that I've established. For entertainment and communications, I do use Xfinity, which allows me to control my Yamaha HDMI receiver, PlayStation, and Xbox into a single unit where I control those devices by means of remote control or by remote on-off and control which devices are on. Alexa's multiple devices and Amazon connects my telephone and other devices so that each Alexa station, if you will, in different rooms can give me an up-to-date vision of what's happening on devices, such as when I get an alert from my Ring device, it tells me that activity has happened and I have a chance to turn on the view of that. The connection to the telephone provides caller ID on each room that I have a phone, and I can hear it tell me what it is as opposed to watching a display on the phone extensions themselves. Those are also wireless, using a different set of frequencies from the rest of the Wi-Fi signals that are being sent. For yard maintenance, I've implemented an automatic zone sprinkler system that has 4 zones, turning it on early in the morning or late in the evening to do the sprinkling to try and minimize the amount of evaporation that occurs during the heat of the day. It also allows me to turn off the system during the winter since I don't use it. The only thing it doesn't do is turn off the water switch that I have underground that controls whether there's water pressure to the relays that actually do the on and off. It features also rain delay, that if we have significant rain and I don't want to just sprinkle on top of rain, I can put a delay in for a day, and winter shut off so that the system is not electrically active during the power when I'm not using it. One of the interesting things that I've done with my solar power system is, and I've included a graph to show the performance over 8 years of operation now, that I'm getting a return on investment within the 8-year period, which should culminate by next year. That means that you can get your money back and still help the environment by providing electricity not only to the home itself, but I've linked in with the power company so that if my home isn't using the solar power, it gets put back on the power grid and I get a rebate for that kind of expenditure. The graph that I provided shows the solar system performance linked to the local utility, where production is the energy delivered by the solar system totally. The power returned is the amount of energy that I gives back to the power company, and power used is the total electric energy used by the home, which includes both solar and regional utility implementation. That sort of summarizes where I am with respect to implementation of technology to be part of the smart home. We've looked a little bit at the updates and what's happening in current technology this year, and I hope this has provided some useful information to those that have tuned in. Thank you much. Bye for now.